Chat GPT. What happened to it? Hey, y'all, I got a clip right here, 1.9 million views. A gentleman on Joe Rogan's show saying why he don't use Chat GPT any longer. Let's check it out.
But I want to talk about Chat GPT.
Fascinating question.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with it at all?
I have not, but someone, the gentleman who runs the JRE companion page, made a rap with Chat GPT.
Have you used it? I tried to use it, but the website was down, and since then, y'all, I never even messed with it again. It's crazy because it was all the rave a couple weeks back, y'all. I haven't seen nothing as far as people using it or making even videos on YouTube. It's like it kind of disappeared. Let me know what you think, y'all, if it's the same thing with you, but I haven't seen anybody using or implementing this whatsoever. I may be wrong. Maybe it's such a good program that stuff that I see is being ran by Chat GPT or some kind of AI system. But as far as the videos and the content, I haven't really been seeing anything as of late. Let's continue.
Like, was it if Kanye West wrote a rap for Chat GPT? They put it on Instagram, but it's like, it seems like a person saying it.
Trey, that you are.
I mean, it takes a long time.
Not really.
His thing took like 48 minutes to do.
Well, whatever you want to look up right now, we can do it.
Yeah, the problem is you have to cajole it. It'll get
gotta know how
something
to use
wrong,
it.
and you have
But
to say,
let's just
no, not
explain
that
what
way.
it is.
So ChatGPT is a large language model trained artificial intelligence, which is, let's just say, it can be awful, but it is often surprisingly good.
I did a video about AI pictures generated. I don't even know if it was by ChatGPT or what, but it was basically these party goers, right? A picture of them. Now, that wasn't in ChatGPT. That was in something else. It escapes me right now, but I did the video on it, and it was very surreal. It looked real, but you could tell something was off. And I honestly believe that's the thing with this AI stuff, y'all. It just don't got it right. Liberty Dragon gave me the actual name of it. I forgot what it's called, but there's an actual term for it when you looking at something like this and it's unsettling and it's just not you could tell something's off with the whole image. He gave me the actual name of it. It's a name, actually, y'all. In this digital age we live in, you know, they actually have a label for this kind of feeling you get when, you know, it's an uneasy feeling you get when you look at something that's just not right. Basically, something that's computer generated or an AI, you know, image. Let's go.
At answering questions you might have about how to do things. One of the great triumphs of it is that coders are now asking it to solve coding problems.
Wow.
And it will actually write code that is functional. It's pretty amazing. And it also, there's an implementation of it.
Here are a few ideas for a 10-year-old's birthday. Have a movie marathon with some of their favorite films or TV shows. 1. Go on a treasure hunt around the house or neighborhood. 2. Have a craft day where you do a variety of different art and craft projects. Have a sports day. Go on a nature walk. And that's the question, the answers to the question. Got any creative ideas for a 10-year-old's birthday? Interesting.
That if you feed it up to 3 tweets, it will write a New York Times story in one of 5 genres, you know,
Wow.
optimistic, pessimistic, neutral. And, you know, you don't really need the New York Times anymore because...
Hey, but like I said, I can't even open this app. You know what I'm saying? This website, should I say. Let's continue.
It's pretty good at this job, right? So on the one hand, it's all very interesting that we're living in an era in which there is at least, I mean, you know, and this is a prototype, right? This is a prototype that was specifically trained and then placed on the internet so people could play with it. And I've seen lots of interesting uses. It's going to get better, right? We're dealing with ChatGPT 3.
And that's what's wild, right? It's going to get better. Is there going to be a day when it really just blurs the line of reality and technology where you can't really tell? A content creator, I could tell for the most part certain images that are, you know, computer generated, or, you know, there's something that's you know, a little off, or I would think that I'd be able to tell something that's artificially made, right? An AI, you know, song, video, image. I would think I can kind of spot it. When will they have the technology, and when will it advance to the point where you can't spot it, even those with a trained eye, right?
Going to be a ChatGPT 4. But I have to say,
Wow.
I am quite alarmed. Not only that this thing exists,
Wow.
but I don't think we're ready for it.
I watched Megan, y'all, and I did a review on that here somewhere. I'll put the link in the description or in the video, but that's a crazy movie, right? Uncanny Valley, is that what it's called? It's coming back to me what Liberty Dragon said, basically, but that's what that movie Megan gave me. It's that uneasy feeling watching that thing, that robot, right, that was so lifelike. It gave me the creeps in the movie theater, right? Megan, basically along the same path as this kind of stuff right here.
And I don't think we're ready for it in a couple different ways.
Wow.
And if you want to comfort yourself and say, well, this isn't that serious that we have this AI that can do these really shocking things, the comforting thing is that the way it's programmed, it doesn't know what it's saying. It doesn't matter that it convinces you that it's saying something and it means it and that it seems like a creative entity. What it's doing is it is basically using a predictive model that has been trained on a huge data set of written language, right? So the answer is, if you take 3 words in a row, can you predict what the next word is going to be? And they've exposed it to a large data set, and it's gotten really good at predicting basically these sequences to the point that it can now, if you prompt it correctly, it can spit out these very long explanations. Some of them are dead wrong. Sometimes they're right on target.
That's what's wild, though, if you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is the beginning, right? This is like the beginning of the sci-fi thriller where the robots take over. and basically it's all, the world goes to crap. That's what I truly believe, y'all. I'm not trying to be a doomer or a gloomer, but this is the point in the movie, right? If it was a movie, that this is the beginning of it, right? This is the onset, right? Because what's going to happen once this thing gets so smart that you just feed info, it's getting info just, inputted into it from millions of people and sources, that it actually becomes smarter than a human. Is it possible?
But I have 2 concerns about it.
Let's go.
One, if you imagine that this thing just gets a little better than it is.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is inevitable. In
Yeah.
other words, if you become expert at operating this thing, at querying it, and it becomes better at understanding a wider range of topics because they turn it loose on everything that's written on the internet, for example, right? Then the point is the ability to fake expertise is going to go through the roof. I don't think we know how we're going to police a world in which, this problem's already bad enough. Most academics are fakers. They don't know that. Right? They trained in something, they wrote a dissertation, they think they're experts, but you can see when something unexpected happens, like the pandemic, you get just broad-scale failure across entire disciplines where nobody seems to get it right?
Or do they? Or are they silenced? Real quick, that's another thing that I noticed with the Chat GPT. They were saying that whenever you use it for anything, you need to fact check it because basically it can just be completely wrong. I've seen guys make it for video, use it to make videos on YouTube, and it's spitting a lot of things that sound correct, but I'm like in my head, are these guys that are using this hack to make content, are they fact checking their content? Or are they just letting ChatGPT generate a voice and the info just to get a quick video and not do much work besides upload it and throw a description on it, right? Let's go.
Right. So in that world, this is going to be even worse because now you have an artificial intelligence able to generate things in plain English that are often full of true information. But you don't know whether what generated it is some, brain dead model or something else. That's one concern.
Even more, kind of more sinister than what I was saying, right? But basically, is it going to be giving good info, bad info, depending on the model, on the software, on the update? Who knows?
And then the other concern is when we say, well, ChatGPT doesn't know what it's saying. It's not conscious. We know it's not conscious because it's not programmed to have a consciousness. We are actually ignoring the other half of the story, which is that we don't know how human consciousness works. I think it's clear that ChatGPT isn't conscious. It couldn't be. But it isn't clear, to me at least, that we are not suddenly stepping onto a process that produces that very quickly without.
That's what I'm kind of saying. Is it going to enable or make it become conscious somehow, right? Is it going to get that, wow, human likability? Can it start thinking for itself? I'm telling you, like Megan, y'all, the movie, it started to override the humans. It started to basically have a mind of her own, basically. It just had so much info and it thought that it knew better than most humans that it would bypass their commands, even from the people that created the machine on Megan.
Without us even necessarily knowing it.
Oof. And what steps,
Let's rewind
if
that real
any,
quick.
can be done to mitigate that at this point?
Let's rewind that real quick.
Without us even necessarily knowing, at least, just because it's not programmed to have a consciousness. We are actually ignoring the other half of the story, which is that we don't know how human consciousness works. I think it's clear that ChatGPT isn't conscious. It couldn't be. But it isn't clear, to me at least, that we are not suddenly stepping onto a process that produces that very quickly without us even necessarily knowing it.
Oof. And what steps, if any, can be done to mitigate that at this point?
Well, it's interesting. I I wrote a paper which I never published anywhere in, I think, 2016 about this very issue. In fact, I used basically the argument that you could attain artificial general intelligence by imbuing computers with a childlike play environment for language and then exposing them to a huge data set, which is not exactly what's happened here, but it's in the ballpark. And I would argue, and I did argue, that one needs to build an architecture in which this can't get away from you, right? And so the architecture that I advocate for is actually a metamorphosis architecture, where metamorphosis is not allowed. It is an affirmative choice of humans, right? In the case of GPT chat, I think some of the artificial intelligence existential risk folks would tell you that one of the dangers is that the chat AI could convince you to do its bidding, right? As you said, when you were looking at this, it felt like a person, right? And the point is, something that feels like a person can play on your emotions, right? Can that be used to cause a fail-safe to be removed? Maybe.
I got another question. What if a computer virus or a hacker or somebody with ill intentions gets a hold of this, y'all, right?
But in any case, this only deals with one of the two issues I'm raising, the question of actual artificial general intelligence arriving, us not knowing necessarily that it has, right? That's a frightening prospect. And in fact, I have a little thought experiment that might reveal why. But the other issue is the issue of competence, where everybody is using this thing behind the scenes in order to say things that are beyond their own capacity to articulate, right? Then the world becomes some new kind of hall of mirrors. We've had a hard enough time dealing with algorithms on, on search and feed. This is a whole next level of difficulty in knowing where you are and who you're talking to and what it means and what their motives are. And I think we ought to be on high alert.
Totally agree. The Twitter exec or whoever was getting grilled, I just posted on my Instagram, and basically Twitter put aggressive something filter upon this Congresswoman's Twitter page or account due to her making a joke about Hillary Clinton, right? And what had happened is that they put this filter on her, unbeknownst to the Congresswoman, where she got thrown less, in the feed. She got banned like 90 days. Basically, they shadow banned her, right? And that's just someone from Twitter doing this. This guy's talking about a whole can of worms, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't even know what will happen once that can is opened. We're already dealing with algorithms used, by these social media tech companies, right, to benefit them and to silence us. We're going to throw a whole nother, system, a whole nother, thought process, right? Basically a whole nother mind, right? Into this ecosystem, right? Into our whole, it's already there. What if this gets in the wrong hands? This is pretty crazy, y'all. This is pretty wild. Let's continue.
Whew. When you extrapolate, when you look at what this does and what it's capable of, and what I think what scares people is something that seems to be a person, but doesn't have any emotion, doesn't have any
Megan.
soul. It's not us, but it behaves exactly as us. And then you can put it in a physical entity. So if you have this chat GPT and then you extrapolate to version 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to communicate with you like Ex Machina, where it's exhibiting all of the behavior characteristics of a person. Like one of the most terrifying that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time was when that guy who was brought in to sort of run some tests on these artificial intelligence creations and determine whether or not they pass as human. What is that test called again? The
Turing test.
Turing test.
Yeah.
And
wasn't that not Blade Runner? Yeah, it was Blade Runner, wasn't it? They're doing the test where they're trying to find out if it's a human being or if it's I forgot the actual word, right? A robot. I believe that's the movie he's talking about. They're doing like a test on there to kind of get reactions. Guys, this is like really crazy if you think about it. If you truly grasp what's happening here, again, back to my analogy from earlier, this is like the beginning of our end. Let's go.
he is in love with this woman. She's manipulated him to the point where he's aided her in her escape. And then she leaves him in that room with the bulletproof glass, and he's pounding on the glass, and she walks away with not a thought at all about him.
Ooh, what movie is that?
It is the ultimate example of the worst case scenario of where this can go, where you have something that behaves exactly like a human being and knows how to play upon your sexual urges, your emotional desires, all of those different things that she plays upon. And then she just walks away from him and leaves him to starve to death in this fucking bulletproof room.
I don't know if that's Blade Runner, y'all, to be honest, because I'm watching Blade Runner, but I'm an oil filter. It's taking me weeks, months to watch a movie, so I haven't got that far. I don't know if that's it. Let me know in the comments what it is. Let's continue.
Yeah, and I'm now recalling the film, and it's done very well because it manipulates you passively in your seat.
Yes.
Right, as it manipulates this character on the screen. And so you are betrayed too.
Yes.
In this. You want to believe that it's emotional, and it has none of that.
You feel bad for this woman, what
Right.
you think is a woman, who is contained. And, when she's saying to him when the power goes out, don't trust him. And then, the power comes back on, she behaves normally again. You're like, oh my God. Like, she's trapped.
Right.
Like this poor creature, they've made a person, essentially. And she has these thoughts and hopes and dreams, just like a regular person, but now she's trapped, and he falls in love with her. And even though he's seen her in her robot form, when she puts skin on and when she puts clothes on and she's in front of him, he's in love with her.
Right. And it, again,
What movie
it
is that?
plays very well because there's a manipulable circuit in straight men.
Yeah.
This particular narrative,
Right,
you'd
but I
have to
mean-
be a gay woman or a straight man
Right.
for it to trigger you. But part of this is actually inevitable in the ChatGPT story because especially to the extent that this is a mindless entity that doesn't know what it's doing. It's
Right.
just striving to do it better.
Yes.
The tactics that work will register as, oh, you did it right. So to the extent that you have those vulnerabilities in you and it finds them and that works, then the point is reinforcement. Right?
It scares us because it's not us, but it is us.
Well-
because it's behaving exactly like us, but it doesn't have all the things that make a person a person. It doesn't have the biological vulnerabilities. It doesn't have the ability to actually sexually reproduce. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have all these different things that we like to think of. The
It doesn't have a soul.
soul,
Right
whatever
there.
that means, whatever that term actually means.
Yeah, but I'm worried about what could be generated. And I know that it will sound to a lot of people, especially technological people, like a biologist out of his depth. But I don't think so. This is a biologist trying to say something about the biology and what it applies about this analogous system.
This is wild, y'all. Get back over here. Whoa. These guys are obviously on a whole nother, level with this. I'm just telling you from a layman's perspective, right? I'm a simple man. I've seen Megan. I've seen, my bad, y'all. I've seen enough to know I don't think this is going to end very well. Just imagine if this thing does what it does in Megan or any other sci-fi movie, it just gets too smart for its own britches, right? What if it the technology falls in the wrong hands? What if it just outsmarts us all? ChatGPT, y'all, the beginning of the end? Let me know in the comments. You're an American. You're a patriot. You got grit. Act like it. I'm out.